My name is Mackenzie, and I'm a victim of domestic violence. I am a daughter, sister, aunt, and friend. Unfortunately, my story of domestic violence begins very young. As a child, I was subjected to my father holding my mom at gunpoint, sexual assault from a close family member, and endless amounts of heartache. When I was younger, my name was legally changed so that I was able to get away from such people. We sought shelter at the YCC for a time. I don't remember much, but my mother would tell us that we are safe, and that was a great feeling for a short while. Throughout all those hardships as a child, I dreamed of simplicity, to love and be loved equally in return. I no longer wanted to be afraid. I moved out at a young age to be on my own. I desperately wanted to create a life that was not repeating the cycle that I had grown up in. I completed high school with highest honors, attending college courses while I was there, so that way I was able to get my associate's degree a year after I graduated. I worked 3 jobs, and I was ready and willing to trust, love, and be loved by a partner. When I was 19, I thought I found that happy beginning. I found my former husband. I was his princess. He was so charming and sweet. Bought me flowers, took me out on dates, would open the door for me, and even took me on vacation before we got married. None of these things I'd ever experienced before. It may seem little to some, but to me it meant the world. I was blinded by his love, but I didn't see what was about to happen to me. I didn't listen to the warnings of my friends and family, and I didn't pay attention to the red flags that came up. I didn't see the beginning to repeat the cycles I had fought so hard not to be in. Shortly after we got married, the fairy tale ended. The red flags became very obvious as the physical abuse, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse started. I was back to where I was a child all over again. I had fear of doing or saying the wrong things, as it might leave me bruises the next day. The hardest part of it all was I was believing it. I had believed the lies he was telling me were true. He has done so many things to me, many of which I do not want to recall. It was bad enough that I feared for my life. I was afraid he would kill me. I'm sure many of you have had experiences or know someone who has, and that's why you're all here today. As we all know, abusers make their victims feel like what's being done to them is their fault and do not hold themselves accountable. It's not uncommon for victims to return to their abuser 2, 3, or even 7 times. I was no different. I blamed myself for his actions. I went back feeling guilty for leaving. Over and over, the toxic cycle continued. But after many months of enduring this from him, something switched in my brain. I suddenly knew I had to keep track of what he was doing. I knew I had to get away, and I knew the moments in which I could. I had endured enough, and it was time to go for good. The universe was giving me an escape, and I took it. My escape was not the most ideal way. It was from rape, but in the act of rape, I was able to get enough evidence against him. I was able to finally put a stop to his abuse, not only on myself, but for others. I stopped it. It's honestly weird for me to say out loud, I stopped him. He was my husband, my abuser, my fairy tale, and I stopped him. With that evidence, I took to the police immediately. You can imagine what happened from there. Tests were performed, questions were asked, and he was arrested just 3 days after the final incident. You would think that with him being arrested, that I would have felt relief. I didn't. I was scared. I was groomed to be abused. Even the abuser locked up. I was abusing myself with lack care, self-harm, and isolation. I was scared of his release, and my nightmare came true. 3 days after his arrest, he was released. He stalked me by tracking my family. I was terrified for my life. I did the unthinkable for myself, though, and attended his bail hearing. At his bail hearing, I pleaded with the judge to please understand the abuse I had been through and to please protect my life. I cannot state the amount of empowerment, relief, feeling heard that day as I did when the judge in fact revoked his bail. I'm happy to say after this time he was not released. For a year, we went through court hearings, which included delays, rescheduling, and a heartache. But most of all, victories. Victories from the judge, bailiff, prosecutor, detective, and advocate for fighting with me to ensure that he could not attack again. Thank you to all of you that went through this journey with me and fought on my side. That year in court was very hard for me. Your support helped me remind myself why I was there. It helped me push me through. He did eventually end up in prison, which is where he is today. And I survived. I survived through all the pain to bring him to justice, not only for myself, but everyone else who suffered at his hands. The effects his abuse took on me are endless. It has been over a year since all of this came to a head, since I have finally been heard that the abuse was taking place. I still fear for my life. I still find myself isolating at times. I went through a time period of self-medicating early on with alcohol. I felt weird being alone. I feel weird being in crowds. I also have found support networks that I had no idea existed. Weber County Victim Advocates, YCC, Rape Recovery, and New Dawn, and other survivors that have spoken up and helped me walk through the healing process. Through these resources, I have found hope, survivorship, that there is a life beyond abuse, and I am not alone. We are not alone. Not only did I survive, I found forgiveness. My mother helped me reunite with my father after 19 years, which I'm forever grateful for. It helped me bond with him and forgive him. We only had a couple months together, but during that time, he taught me what forgiveness truly is. He helped me heal from all the wrong I experienced. With my recently acquired medical background, he helped me show me the value of life. Because of his help, I was able to continue forward in life and find closure before he passed away. Because of this closure I had with him, I feel like I have a better chance in not repeating the cycles. For those of you that are stuck in repeating their toxic cycles, I love you. I accept you even for staying or going back. You don't have to go back. There are other options. You do not have to fight alone. You have to be willing to do the work. And I stand by you when you are ready to fight.